a call so that you can actually meet Andrea and Brett, and get to know them, and start discussing these ideas with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I just started this recording. I missed the beginning. But we're talking about setting up channels, bridge channels for cooperation between communities. You know, and I'm suggesting that that can't hurt in terms of enabling cooperation between the communities, which, you know, generally has not happened. You know, they all got together in high-low, and everybody's, you know, doing what they want to do, and yet we have a common set of problems we're all trying to solve, where cooperation makes a whole lot of sense.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
And, you know, we have a lot of bridge people or cooperate, you know, links between our communities that can sort of translate between the communities or whatever, and you know, create a channel of space for that cooperation that, you know, is easily accessible to both sides. Now, I don't know what form that would be, but yes, set up a meeting. I mean,
yeah, I'll do that. Yeah,
you have a number of open meetings like this one that they could be invited to.
Yeah, but I think it would be better to have a dedicated meeting, because we don't want to sort of hijack your agenda completely.
Yeah. Now, you're not in Dig Life, are you?
Me, I think I don't know if I'm in the Dig Life channel or not.
Let's see. Doesn't look like you're there.
Well, I can add myself, or you can add me, if it's going to help keep me in the loop.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. It was Michael's suggestion that we all rally around the Lab Dig Life channel, since, you know, you don't have to be a member of Dig Life to be in it. And
okay. Yeah. Well, I'll join it. Yeah, I'll join it.
We're going to be, you know, that's where we're putting all the bridge channels.
Oh, what, you're going to put them all inside the Dig Life channel?
Right.
Oh, all of your own individual link channels.
Yeah. Well, link channels between groups using this in part of the Dig Life social ledger.
Okay.
And this will, you know, sort of allow navigation within the ledger to the different cooperations.
Okay.
Or between them, and you know, we can experiment with it at this point. You know, like I said, right now the capabilities are very primitive. We can put in links and different kinds of activities, which can and you know, we're building in essence a skeleton of the connections with the muscles of the webhooks, the web bots that called by the social ledger in order to, you know, manipulate the social objects. Which will hopefully be decentralized. We're working on that. So let's see. Did I put the link in there? Let me put the invite link in there for you. There's the invite link. And
Okay, so so this is not in Mattermost then. This is somewhere else.
this is in Mattermost. It's in on a different Mattermost server.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay, so I better do it now then. Oh, where do I get the chat? So I better do it now because otherwise I won't be able to access it after this call, will I?
Yeah. Well, if you type /dig, you'll have a link to the Social Ledger trial document.
Oh, I better do it now. Yeah, that's fine. I'm
No,
following like.
it's an open server. It's not.
He still has to sign up.
Yeah, it's just it's a self sign up.
Right.
Yeah.
And, no, there's a whole bunch of teams from different communities on here.
Okay.
We have the links to the Open App Ecosystem and the Collaborative Technology Alliance here.
Share your screen, Jim, and
I'm signing up now, so I've got it.
Right. I just signed you up. I mean, I just brought. I think you'll just be in the one team. You can join any of the other teams. You can see we got a whole lot of teams here. Our lab Dig Life is where we're experimenting with collaboration, and I don't. You've seen demos of the Social Ledger. You know what that is.
Well, I'm trying to. Yeah, I intend to learn a lot more about it. I haven't really had the time to yet.
No, but basically, we have the hearts, norms, we have activities, the actions, we have documents, we have links, and if you type /dig, not typing, /dig help will give you a list of all the commands.
/dig help, yeah.
And if you want to list all the activities in a channel, /dig A. And now, but I mean, you don't have to know about it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pick all that stuff up over time, won't I?
Right. And if you're facilitating an activity, I can help you with with the commands that will, make the Social Ledger valuable for that team.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to learn, but we'll get there over time.
So I guess that's my update.
Yeah, I like to think about these circles that we're creating in the Social Ledger as a way to quickly bring a group of people having a conversation, not so much up to speed, but on the same track around an issue that goes beyond just the name of the channel we're in, and it adds a lot of structure to the meta conversation we're having about what our goals are.
Yeah. Well,
that sounds good.
And to we want to make it so that, the only thing you need to do when you enter a channel is type /dig A. You'll see all the activities, and you can commit to them.
And this, of course, is an extreme example, because I think this is the one we chose to let people do just anything they wanted to there, right?
Yeah, people were encouraged to play here. But, if somebody approached the norm here, after you create a really good contract, I don't understand that, so I'm not going to check it.
Well, you click on it.
Yeah, but I don't.
I know, but click on the link. You don't have to check it. Just look at what it's referring to, Jim. No, not that. The link that, yeah. Click on that.
Hello. Click again.
Your computer is sluggish.
Like
Windows 7.
It's Windows 10, but I don't know what it usually performs a lot better than this.
Well, it's got all that information to send back to
I probably should have rebooted it lately.
Well, and when you're sharing screen, it's just that much more burden on the system.
Yeah. Yeah, the system's really slow. But so I should probably stop sharing.
Yeah. This is just not the time to dig into the social ledger.
Yeah. Can't even it looks like, I don't know. I don't know why it's slow. It doesn't look like I'm using 100% of my activities.
I saw Mattermost lately has been doing some interesting things.
Yeah, when I share the screen, the CPU goes up to 99%.
Yeah.
That's what's killing it.
Is that an i7 computer?
I don't remember. How do I find out?
I don't know. I'm not even in the i series.
I've always had to have Windows, for my businesses, my jobs. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm still getting lousy performance. This has been a pretty good machine for me. i7, yeah. 2.5 gigahertz. Intel Core i7. It has at 2.5 gigahertz, and then it has 2.6 gigahertz. Anyway, it has 2 different gigahertz. All right. But in any case, what were you saying, Gary?
I was just talking about how we use the meta menu in the channels to create these circles, and it has like you were talking about earlier today, the social ledger is really nothing in itself. It's just a structure, and it's a agreed upon structure that serves very well at setting up these collaborative centers of energy is a way I like to think about them.
I think that the meta maps interface will be very interesting, and I hope we can get to that soon.
Oh yeah, I agree.
That way, that offers us whole new opportunities. And, I'm thinking that we can make the map, the meta map, as we define the commands or generate it from, the database, so to speak. And it can be very valuable. I mean, it can show connections that are not that easy to show in the holonic diagram when you have links across different parts of the holonic structure and things like that. And
oh yeah, what we choose to show will be a function of what a typical member of the group would want to see from that perspective.
No. So I've got the bridges to do, the global search. I just want to take the first step in that, and which would be a global search across all the domains in a single Mattermost server. But what I'd really like to do is do a search through all the Mattermost servers that you belong to.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
Or the domains that you belong to.
Are these API calls to Mattermost?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what we were going to look at today, although I'd like somebody to look at the bridge configuration. John, did you get a chance to? Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi, John.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I did look. I put a note in the Mattermost. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yeah. So you found another bug. We got to.
I didn't run it. There's a section missing, I think, in a TOML file for an account.
Okay, well, I'll look at that when we get done here. I was trying everything to get the bridge to work, and one thing I didn't try again was changing one flag, thanks to John, it's running. The bridge I just showed you helped with that, which is good. Now I'm having another problem. So hopefully he can show me what I did stupid here. But Gary and I were going to look at doing the global search, and I don't know if you may want to look at that too, John. I don't know. That's PHP.
When do we want to do that? Because tomorrow is there are a lot of meetings.
Good question. Propose a time.
Okay. Thursday?
Thursday, how about Thursday at 2 p.m.?
Okay. 2 p.m. Eastern.
That's the normal new programming.
Yeah, so it'll be 1 p.m. Central.
All right. So, Michael,
No
social.
PHP.
Huh?
No PHP.
I was it. You know, it's like the devil. Is that what it is?
And I do with
No,
code.
it's just another sort of C-like language. You know, it's not.
Yeah. C
You know,
language.
nobody really programs anymore. You just search and copy and paste it.
However, you were going to ask a question of me there.
Oh yeah, no, I was just
The timing is,
you know, getting your thoughts or whatever on the in the sort of the round robin of the social ledger trial open meeting. Your thoughts of the day, whatever.
we're getting closer.
Yeah.
That's
We haven't
about it.
won.
Yeah, I think this is the messy period. I'm seeing these metaphors of the flock of birds, the murmurations, you know, the weaving and the rolling around, and they're very evident when you have 1,000 birds up there. When you only have 20 birds up there, it doesn't look quite the same. It looks more like chaos, and I think we're in that preliminary stage where there's quite a lot of evidence of chaos.
Yeah.
And keep at it. Just keep at it. Yeah, I think the social ledger trial, I liked your figure that you're about 3% into the deployment of the social ledger.
That was your number.
Was it mine?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was yours.
oh well, I'd say 3.5.
Oh, okay.
Well, is there a way? Okay, so if 3% is done, what does the other 97% look like on paper?
Well, you know, the social ledger is an idea. It'll never, you know, you know, the map is not the territory. And right now, you know, it's a really thin skeleton. Okay, but it's relevant skeleton. It's, you know, in my view, and it's also an architecture that can enable us to develop personal bots and group bots to operate on our social objects that will facilitate all of our activities and automate our activities and eliminate redundant tasks. You know, provide a framework for us to, you know, basically use chat ops to operate our bots and run our own stuff. Okay, that takes part in the social ledger through the webhooks. And, you know, there's a lot of examples of things to be integrated, like the bridges, you know, navigating between the bridges and such like that when you have bridges between communities. Or you have activities that are in more than one domain, same activity. You know, in setting up like Joachim's makerspace.
Did you see the graphic that Joachim just put up on Divi? Oh, not on Divi, on Dig Life and the Ledger Lab there. I put it in our chat. In our chat, there's a link to BumbleNut drawings. BumbleNut drawing.
That's the last link?
Yeah, beautiful visualization of the social ledger. I think it's the idea for me, Gary, is that the social ledger is the composite of the individual ledgers.
Yeah, and this is sort of the MetaMap
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
View, but or a MetaMap view. There can be many views.
So I think one of the next stages to taking the 3% to 10 or 20 or whatever is going to be the process of enabling the personal ledger as the elemental building component of the whole deal.
Right. I mean, that's, sort of what Matthew was talking about in the holochain
Mm-hmm.
thing is like the personal, your own chain. And, if what's proven in my chain and your chain is all that's needed for there to be consensus about us exchanging tokens or whatever. We don't need the whole world to be in on the decision, whatever. The social networks are the places where we connect, and it includes our conversations. It's not just the dig commands, because the conversation, the ledger links to the conversation links to the task support system. But ultimately, we wanted the task support system to link back. So part of this other 99% or 97% is our link to our task support system, like Kanboard. Okay, I'm looking at Kanboard as a fairly robust tool with lots of plugins that, if we made the social ledger, we integrate the social ledger with that, we'll have something that most communities can use very simply out of the box. Install it in Cloud Run with one button click. And rather than it being a dead end, it would link back into the social ledger, and it would help, and it would participate in the social ledger. Right now we only integrate with Mattermost. We're adding Discourse. I would like to add Telegram and some others, so that if you're on the Telegram side, you also have bots that connect to the social ledger directly, so that you never have to leave your environment in order to use it, whether it's a chat environment or a task support environment. We had one prototype in the Noob School where Jake Gilbert put buttons on the GitHub page for voting. We could, even put buttons for the social ledger in GitHub.
See, all this speaks, from my perspective, to the social ledger being the new sexy glue, the connective membranes that really pull this together. John, you were asking this morning about the killer app, and I really think social ledger is going to be the killer app, or the mother app, actually. I prefer mothers than killers in this context.
And, and as I was saying also, it's more of an architecture than it is an app.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meta.
Yeah.
Something like that. But there's a fair distance to cover before that's a generally realized proposition.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
this
and an architecture implies that we're building something that is intended to have some sort of permanence, and permanence at this point in time is going to be crucial because change is about to start happening so rapidly that we're going to need some sort of permanence to hold on to.
hmm
Yeah, and
Could you elaborate on that in terms of what you're thinking of in terms of the change and what you're referring to by means of the permanence?
Well, I mean that we're getting smarter so rapidly that from week to week our plans are changing
Mm.
on what we need to be doing. So many of us are moving from one opportunity to the next,
Yeah, true.
and what this thing is going to look like in a year, I don't really, I can't hazard a guess. But if we're building some sort of structure that has a built-in permanence to it, if it's an architecture that's intended to last, then that serves as a grounding
Right,
for what we're trying to do.
right, got you.
Gentlemen, I got to beg off now. Good conversations always builds, even if I don't know what it's building. Talk to you later. Bye, guys.
all right. See you, Michael. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, I along those lines, I've had a thought lately that this idea of a singularity is, in a subjective sense, I feel like different people will recognize the singularity at different times.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I going from one day to the next, sometimes I think we've already reached it. And my indicator is that there are so many good ideas happening everywhere that it's almost it's almost impossible to know where to spend your energy.
Mm. Yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to. Yeah, I have that feeling myself, definitely.
Jim, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Yeah. So, John, your thoughts today on the Social Ledger trial?
I can't possibly comment because I don't know enough about it yet. I'll be a nuisance and say you shouldn't be using PHP. How about that?
Well,
What's Gary saying?
The architecture makes it completely agnostic to the language that's used. So we let people use the language they like, and Joachim used PHP for the prototype. And, keep in mind that what we have today is a prototype. It's centralized, more or less. It uses Firebase.
One thing to bear in mind on this, and I will keep going around this loop of about learning things and building up your skill set, is if it was in a different, you could say sexy, if you want to say that, but if it was in, say, Go or Rust or something else, which is, I think, more appropriate. PHP gives me hives. I can't work with it. It's a scripting language. That's it. But if it was in Go, it might attract more people into the project by virtue of it being in a modern. Does that make sense? It gives it extra kudos for people to get engaged with it. Younger developers, engineers may be more attracted.
Yeah.
PHP is a real. I don't know whether Gary agrees with this, but I think it's quite. If you're going to put your energies into a project like this, the architecture is obviously important, and you're going to go through stages of prototyping. PHP for some people is really easy to quickly code in, but I think you should perhaps consider a strongly typed language anyway.
Well, yeah, and to some extent, we also should be flexible. I mean, I would prefer everything in Rust. Okay, that's the only safe programming language that's out there in my view. And it's very efficient, and it runs in the browser with WebAssembly. So you can have browser-based applications with the whole web and all the services out there as your backend. We have some web services in PHP. Well, if I didn't tell you they were in PHP and you didn't have to mess with them, you wouldn't know. Now the work we're doing with MetaMaps, integration with Mattermost, is in JavaScript, I think, which is better than PHP, but basically equivalent. You can do, a PHP object and can be expressed in JSON the same as in JavaScript. It's not, they're both sort of C-like languages.
But JavaScript does have a bit more potential, doesn't it? Because you've got these transpilers.
We're using it because we have this, because there's code in that base. But if we're writing something from scratch, my vote's going to be Rust. And looking at integrating with Parity, and that's all written in Rust. And Parity is is Dashboard 2.0, which will have an interface to Ethereum. That's what Parity is written for, the browser-based Parity with WebAssembly written in Rust. But also to Holochain. If our experiments are successful there, with the Special K data store of our chain, if our experiments there are good.
Jim, was that word you were looking for this morning pattern language?
Yeah, it is a pattern language. The word I was looking for was Special K. That was the name of it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
There's different architecture, back-end architecture. Now, all the our chain stuff is Scala. And so, we would, rather than JavaScript, we would write mostly in Scala.js, using JavaScript libraries, of course. And Scala is a better language than JavaScript, much better.
Do you feel the same way, Gary, by using a different implementation to attract developers to the project?
Well, I I don't know that I agree with the 3%, 97% estimate of how much is done and how much is left to be done. If there's 97% left to be done, we need a lot of programmers. I just don't know that I agree with that much is left to do to get this thing in a shape where that it will be self-sustaining and programmers will be we'll be turning people into social ledger programmers, whether there's PHP or something else. I could be wrong. It could be that we need to figure out some way to shift gears. And I mean, I would say if a programmer showed up willing to work on the project and they were wizards at any language, we could probably put them to work. Jim, you're on mute, but I'm hoping you're agreeing.
Yeah, and my own feeling is that we'll have domain-specific languages that we'll use in our process definitions, which essentially will be text. In essence, any document can be considered a program and can be executed by some interpreter in some way. And one of the things that we're doing is we're tearing down the program data border
If there'll be a time when it goes into GitHub soon. It's not there yet, but once it reaches a certain level of functionality. Can you hear me, by the way? I'm just
yes.
Slightly quieter. So once it goes into GitHub, that you're probably going to get, Gravity then more involvement, and also being able to create sample applications built on top of the architecture.
Right.
But imagine if there's two options though. One is in PH2, same base frameworks. I don't know whether framework is the right word for social ledger, but I'll use that as an example now. So one is PHP and one is Rust or Go. I know what I would choose, and it's not to do about it's being able to do the job. I think that's key. I think there are certain programming languages. PHP is for web development. It's not for creating database applications or real time it's.
Yeah, well, to some extent, don't worry about what it's written in because, there'll be a number of implementations in different languages. It's okay. What you need to worry about is, okay, when you're defining a behavior of a certain class of social object or a particular activity that you're involved in, okay, in the metadata there, you're going to define some function and you're going to have a reference to the API call or the service that provides it and the interface, the arguments, and what it returns. Okay, and so when you develop this behavior for a social object, okay, it's essentially an API call. It's a web call. Okay, and you write that. You don't have to write that in a particular language. Okay, now if you're going to what we have in common at this point is the global directory of the distributed identifiers of the social objects and people, the channels, the activities, the domains, each have a a distributed identity, a DID, which we need some mechanism or global index, so to speak, to access. Okay, and it doesn't have to be global because each domain, if you have a DID for a UPort Ethereum address, the mechanism to get that is going to be different from, if you're getting the DID of a activity in a Mattermost channel. Okay, but in essence, you go down the classes of the identifiers to access the correct database for identifiers in that domain. And for Mattermost, we have a decentralized identity or a persona on every Mattermost instance that we're on. So we have a whole number of Mattermost of DIDs for our identities, and then activities within channels have a DID with respect to themselves, and then the behavior of the social object. This is a service discovery operation. We discover what URLs are used to say get my birthday. Okay, if you want to get my birthday, what's the process for that, or is that public in this domain, or the persona I have in that domain is, have I exposed my birthday?
Do you think once the prototyping in PHP is done, you've tested the proof of concept, it sounds to me what you're describing there is a DSL, a domain-specific language that you could define and then use that to translate into any language. So it's like Swagger.
It's it's like every statement, every /dig statement you make can call a different language. Now, in some, I guess the point I was getting there, in some cases they may share a database. And this is one of the things we're doing now. We're using Firebase now, going to Holochain and whatever, but there's no reason why every Mattermost instance has to use the same Firebase. But for within our domain, we can share a Mattermost, and we can share a Firebase database, and now that can be defined at the domain level or whatever. If you're going to chat.diglife.com Mattermost, we know what we can find, what database to use, and if we're a member of that, get the credentials OAuth 2 credentials to prove that we can access that database with what permissions, whatever, and use that to resolve DIDs within the DigLife Mattermost. But I can write a program in Rust that accesses that. And I'm just getting JSON back. I don't care what the program was written in. It gives me JSON. Okay, and it doesn't care calling me if I'm a capability of this social object, and it calls my bot to do this function. I can use whatever language I want. And I think this is an important aspect of decentralized or truly decentralized system, is that there is no restriction at what language you use for the functionality. And I first saw this in process orchestration systems, where you hang together different processes, and you could, in some cases, you could define each process step in its own language. There was no requirement that everything was Java or whatever. That's really what we're doing, is process orchestration. So I guess we're over the hour. I guess any final thoughts, Adam?
I would just be interested in what context you were initially involved in process orchestration, what projects that was for.
Well, we did the first real-time account and loan real-time loan fulfillment for Sovereign Bank. But I guess it was for ADT Security Company. Used can't even remember the name of the tools now. But there's a number of, if you look up BPEL and BPEL, Business Process Execution Language, or BPMN, Business Process Markup Language.
Perhaps you could send me a couple of links via MetaMost.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of issues. Now, the head of our chain designed and led the project in Microsoft called BizTalk, which was another process orchestration environment. Now, they diverged from the mathematical purity that Greg was looking for, and Greg sort of washed his hands of the project, but that's really what process calculus is about, is process orchestration. So that's what our chain is about. But it was really cool to be able to graphically program your business processes with these tools in Eclipse.
Adam, I think I promised to get you some PyCalculus material last time, and I didn't. I hope you are still giving me an opportunity to do that.
Oh, please, yeah, please. So I'm relatively tech illiterate, but I want to become a bit more tech savvy. So how does this differ? So excuse me if this is a rather ignorant question, but how does this differ from something like Zapier, which is seeking to integrate all of your personal apps? Is it along similar lines, but at a
No, Zapier is a much higher level, but related.
Yeah, no, in terms of process orchestration, Zapier is not, it is a pretty good example. Generally, it's only used for very basic workflows, but it could be. I don't know. I haven't tried to do any complex workflows with it, but it does do workflows. Yes, that's an example, and it does so in a similar manner to the social ledger, and we can leverage Zapier. Unfortunately, they don't have a really straightforward webhook interface to it. Although it's probably not as difficult as I see. It seems like a wall. If I'm going to write a programmatic interface to Zapier, I might as well write the workflow myself.
right.
But there's a lot. I use Zapier.
Right.
In fact, for the RChain event log, I use it to integrate Google Documents, a Google spreadsheet with Mattermost.
Right.
It's just a lot easier to use Zapier than to write the whole thing. And there's other good uses for it too. A lot of times you just come up dead though because it doesn't do what you want.
Mm.
For example, Zapier doesn't support any Mattermost events. So the only thing you really do with it is post to a channel. It has an action and has no triggers. Now I shouldn't complain too much because we haven't defined the triggers yet in the social ledger.
Mm. But I guess it's only a matter of time before there's an open source equivalent to Zapier.
Yeah, and the app ecosystem type stuff. This is what we want to converge on with the Collaborative Technology Alliance and Open App Ecosystem folks, is moving toward a standard so that to some extent Slack has been the standard. Everybody has an interface like Slack.
Mm.
Hey Jeff, hold on a minute. All right, I'm going to have to go now. It's been a good talk.
Nice to meet you, John, also.
Hope to speak to you
if you
again.
want to stick around and hang out, that's fine. I have to go. And
Okay.
maybe I'll be back.
Thanks.